This episode is brought to you by Bybit. Use the link in the description and sign up today. Thank you Bybit for partnering and sponsoring this video. Hello everyone, this is Oliver. Let's get into a Bitcoin market review. So, before we study Bitcoin and come to a decision and conclusion, professional traders understand that a market is impacted by other markets. And if we look at Bitcoin at the moment, the market that is correlated with Bitcoin currently is the S&P 500. So I'm going to pull this chart up right now. Now we can see that whenever Bitcoin forms a low, Bitcoin forms a low, and when Bitcoin forms a high, S&P forms a high. You can see that the crash happened at the same time, and these markets are very correlated at the moment. So let's understand what's going on here. We need to understand what's affecting the S&P market at the moment, and we can do that by studying the dollar index. Since the dollar index is pretty much the greenback, the king currency, the dollar index affects all professional markets. So we can see that when the dollar formed an important low, this put a ton of selling pressure on the S&P market, and therefore putting a ton of pressure, selling pressure, on the Bitcoin market as well. So we'll start off with the dollar index. And the reason that we can see that the futures markets such as Bitcoin and S&P, these markets are crashing when the dollar index goes higher, is because the symmetry of risk on and risk off market situations. So let me quickly explain this. There's two conditions the market can go through. There's a risk on environment and a risk off environment. So when there's stuff like Ukraine wars, or potentially a China war, potentially cyber attacks and stuff, this puts a ton of investors into shock mode, and they don't want to put their money on the line for the long run. So what they're going to do is they're going to have a risk off situation, and they're going to put their money into one of the strongest assets out there, which is the greenback. Okay, so that's a risk on situation. However, when the markets are on risk on situation, as the name suggests, investors are willing to put risk into markets such as the S&P 500, stocks, or foreign currencies, and then this is what makes the markets very beautifully correlated. It's the switch back between risk on and risk off situations. So the only way we can determine that is by looking at the dollar index. And if we look at the dollar index first, the dollar index governs the direction of the S&P market. And if the S&P market governs the direction of Bitcoin as of recently, then we must pay attention to the dollar index first. So that's what we're going to do. So looking at the dollar index at the moment, we've taken out monthly highs after being in a big consolidation moment. Now what we do here is very crucial to how we're going to, and how the state of Bitcoin or index futures are going to be in the upcoming months or even years, right? Since we hit a monthly level, this sets up a monthly trend. Okay, so big moves on the monthly chart, these last for years, and they happen at monthly levels. So if we have a monthly key level here and we've just taken out a monthly level, how we react to is key. And once we have a liquidity pool, there's two things price can do. There's either a retracement or full-on reversal. We don't know what it wants to do yet because these monthly candles take a while to confirm, right? So we can go into the lower time frame. We can kind of see what it wants to do. And by looking at the weekly chart, if this is our low and this is our high, this is the range I want to see price retrace into. And we have two levels. We have this level here, and we have this level here. So I'm looking at these two levels as potential buys to the upside again. And the reason is I don't want to be playing against this established trend we have already. Okay, so it's always best to trade with the higher time frame trend and not trying to call the tops unless there's confirmation. So for now we're looking at price retrace down, 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 maybe back into the hundreds and 99 figures. So I'm looking for the 100 and 99. If we dip below the 100, that would be all over the headlines, and the news would be like, oh, the dollar is back under 100, it's going to zero now, which is great for us traders because we want to be instilling that type of emotion into the retail crowd. So if this is going down, 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 and the retail crowd are getting more scared about the dollar index, that just pushes pressure, upwards pressure, on the index markets, index futures. So that's the next asset we're going to take a look at. Okay. Now in the previous week, my analysis for the S&P 500 was pretty clear. I'm looking for buys at these two levels here, and I want to see it rally into this pink level here. And we've had a consolidation week, which is, it's fine because the market moves with pauses and expansions. So if we can take a look at this move here, we have a pause, expansion and a pause, expansion and a pause, expansion. So we know what's in town for us next. It's an expansion. And I'm looking for these highs here for price to draw towards after breaking this high and taking out an old low. So I'm seeing since I'm expecting downwards pressure on the dollar index to those levels I just mentioned, this should put upwards pressure on the S&P 500, which brings me to my final point, which is Bitcoin. Now this is what I currently see with Bitcoin. This is on a crypto exchange, which is Bitstamp. So a lot of the candles here, since it's on Bitstamp, don't really matter, right? What I mean by that is we understand professionals move the market and professionals trade on the futures exchange. And by professionals, I mean people with stacks. On Bitcoin, you'll see your average trader with maybe a 7-figure bankroll, 6-figure bankroll, 5-figure bankroll. Nonetheless, compare that to a professional trader, that's peanuts. So if you want to look at the best feed for price action trader, it would be the Bitcoin futures chart. But we'll go there in a bit. I'm looking for buys into here and into here. And I'll explain this on the futures chart. So now we understand that S&P 500 and Bitcoin are heavily correlated. Bitcoin made a low here, S&P 500 made a low here, Bitcoin made a high here, S&P 500 made a high here with the crash, and the crash is heavily correlated. And since I'm short-term bullish on the S&P 500 until we take out these highs, I'm expecting the same thing for Bitcoin. So in the previous, in my chat, I said, okay, price is stuck in this consolidation here, and you don't want to be looking for entries in here unless you're trading on the daily chart. But you don't want to be looking at day trades or scalps in here because you're just going to get chopped up. Price broke above that range, and I wanted to see price maintain outside this range, like maintain it. But we just traded back inside the range, and this sets up a possibility for more chop. So you don't want to be looking for day trades inside of this range here, right? Because this is chop city at the moment. We broke up above these highs, and that trapped long breakouts. So there is a potential chance that all those long breakouts, they're gonna pull their stops here, and they're gonna pull their stops here, which is not with my bias. Okay, so maximum I'm willing to accept is price to take out this low here, break market structure or print some bullish pattern here, then trade towards this gap here and this level here. But since the S&P 500 market says, look, we're just gonna go for a rally here, I'm still leaning towards buys here. Okay, buys here, and buys here. Where I'm wrong, I'm not giving you guys both sides of the markets here, okay? I'm making it very clear that I want to see price trade towards these 2 points. But we're always going to be wrong in this game, so I'm going to tell you exactly when I'm going to be wrong, okay? I'm wrong when we close below this low here. And if we close below this low here, we can look for day trades now. So I'm looking for a nice close. I don't want to see it stay outside that range. Not do something like this. Trade back in there. I want to see it close. Close outside the consolidation with a nice displacement. And that would tell me I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, it's great because I have more information. And with more information becomes more trades. We have longer term objectives to the downside that we can trade towards. So I'm up for it. I'm not scared. I don't fear any fucking loss. So regardless, I'm looking for price to trade up here and then here. And the setup currently is this, but if we do take out this low here, trade back within a range and print some new bullish pattern, then I will update everyone in the group and I'll tag everyone in the group. So that has been all over for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.